Welcome to Just the Who of Us, hosted by Reah Higgs. This is a space for honest, thoughtful conversations around mental health, life journeys, holistic wellnesses, and the experiences that shape who we are. Take a breath, settle in, and join Reah and today's guests as we explore the stories that connect us.
I want to welcome you to Just the Who of Us podcast. I know I really do appreciate you making time to talk to
Well,
me.
thank you for having me too. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, Lyndal is on the June cover, the second edition of I Am Ready magazine, and the pictures. Wow! First of all, the pictures were gorgeous. Um, you
I had
know,
lots
and
of help.
the
I had
pictures
lots of
were
help.
gorgeous. Yeah. And I'm not gonna dive too deep into her article because, well, the magazine is free. So, take a moment and click on the link in the description and go check out her cover and experience her article for yourself because it really is phenomenal. And the story is just beautiful. And kind of crazy. A little, like, well, you were there, but
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
the things that happen, like these two big life things happening
mm,
simultaneously, you and your mom. I mean, that's wild. And so,
yeah,
but the fact that you navigated through that and you came out so beautifully is something to be proud of and something to admire. And so, I really want to say that I'm I'm proud of you for that. If that means much, but
yeah. No, thank you. I
I
appreciate
really
it.
am, and I'm really grateful to have you be a part of the magazine.
Yeah,
But magazine aside, do check out her article. But I wanted to kind of get to know you a little more professionally in this episode. You are used to being the one kind of in this chair, talking and asking questions and navigating and supporting. So tell us a little bit about who you are in your professional career.
yeah. So mine's a bit varied. I worked for 25 years in corporate in a
Mm.
project rescue space. So I would go in and solve the problems basically. People would call me in when they were reactive, when they were like, it's all gone to shit. Excuse my French, but it's all gone to
Oh,
shit
please.
and we need it fixed and la la la,
Yeah.
come in. So that was kind of my specialty in that space. So I was very good at recognizing patterns and, seeing where the failures were and that sort of thing. That's always been something that's been very strong for me, even as a kid.
Mhm.
I've sort of seen things that,
Wow.
yeah, across, what's happening here. I can see what's happening here.
Yeah.
And I suppose during that time, I would, I was always mentoring and training people and helping people through in that space. But I also started to do volunteering in the cancer space because, as you know from the article, both my mum and I went through cancer at the same time. So
Yeah.
from that, my surgeon got me into the space of you need to go start talking to cancer patients and then start talking to, yeah, their
Okay.
family, that sort of thing. So he had a program that would get people into that. And that's how it started. That was 16, was that? 2008. So a long time ago, I started doing that. And then that sort of morphed. I would work with cancer patients and their families. And then it sort of went into the DV space, um, you know, um, family and domestic violence. And it kind of then just went into this space where I was specialized sort of working with women. I did a coaching qualification like, I don't know, 15 years, 20 years ago or something, which I kind of used it with work, but
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
like I had too many other things going on.
Right.
And then I did my counseling qualification. So I've got all these different qualifications. And I think what I've worked out for me, it wasn't about any particular modality because I don't like going to a client or having a client come to me and saying, this is my modality, this is where we're going to work in this
Right.
space. It's
Yeah.
about what do you need? and let's pick something that works for you, not what I
Right.
think works for you. So, I've done Reiki, I do energy work as well. So there's all these different modalities that I play with in my toolkit, I suppose, as a self authority guide. And yeah, that's kind of where I landed. So it's a bit different, but yeah, we get there.
Yeah, just to kind of clarify for those who aren't aware, can you explain what a self-authority guide is?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So basically, like I was saying, I use a lot of different modalities, and it basically is to help people understand themselves so well that they can live from a place of self-authority. So we have all these, you would know this in your space as well, cultural conditioning and family patterning and, you know, gender, religion, all these different things that are pushed on us. And we
Yeah,
don't choose a lot of them, right? They're
right.
just bloodline stuff. They come to us. And so this is sort of working with the person going, okay, let's strip all this back and
Mm,
find out what is actually yours, not what people have given you, but what's yours.
yeah.
Mm,
It's interesting because I was having a conversation with someone earlier today, and this conversation won't come out until maybe a couple months from now. But just the fun fact of having it like in the same day, we were talking about these parts of us that
mm,
are we're born into. They're kind of products of our environment, and religion being such a big one of them.
yeah,
And I won't go, I won't trail farther into the religious aspect, but it is such a natural, really, and common thing that a lot of our identity is based around just products of our environment. And so, when we're teenagers, young adults, probably starting around teenage years, because that's when we break a little independently away from our parents, a little bit. And
yeah,
it starts, on through our adulthood as we get more out into the world. We are interacting with different types of people, and
mm,
we start to kind of form our own characteristics. And so it's
yeah,
like it's interesting to just kind of think about that and think about how those things impact us, who we are, who we want to be even. Do I want to practice this religion? Do I want to, like, well, this is the one I know because I've been there,
yeah,
well, I should do this because it's what I know. And then you start learning about other things and you're like, oh, there is more, like I do have options. And,
yeah,
so and not just religion, obviously, but they're, like eating habits, just lifestyles in
mm,
general that it's interesting what you can learn about yourself when you
mm,
have outside information outside of just
mm.
what you were kind of, your little bubble.
Yeah, 100%. And when you think about it, like there's so many components too. Like you have teachers and mentors and you have friends and family, like all these different components that
Yeah,
are running these belief systems that you don't even consciously know about most of the
right,
time. Like when you
right.
start to think about, you listen to the words that you say in some situations. I remember when I first started to do this many, many years ago, and I'm like, where did that come from? And I would sit down and think about it. And it was something that my grandma had said to me, when I was a kid. And you're like, wow, that's sort of stuck in my mind.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, it's kind of getting to that point of asking yourself, is that my truth? That's what I always bring it back to. Is that my truth?
yeah,
When it comes up, is that my truth? And you might sit there and go, don't think so. But
right.
that's the pattern I've been running on, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
because it really it is it's what we know. And we do what
Yeah.
we know until we
Ex-
do what we know until we know different.
exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think too, we've never been taught to ask ourselves the questions. And we're not taught to invest in ourselves in that
Very
self-discovery
much,
stuff. Yeah.
very much so.
So it's changing the narrative a little bit. I like changing the narrative. I like sort of getting people to ask questions that don't fit in the little box. That's how
Yeah.
my brain works.
Yeah, but it's how we get people to see other perspectives. You
Yeah,
know,
definitely.
here's something other than what you've been doing, other than how you've been thinking. Those kinds of things get people to step out of what they're used to and look at other perspectives. And that's how we kind of grow and we start to open up in communication when we understand, oh, okay, there is a different option. There's a different
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah. And you're talking about religion before, with as just one example, but don't you
Mhm.
find too that people either go completely into what their parents have told them, or they go completely opposite? Like it's
Yes.
so
Yes.
extreme. Yeah.
That's true. One thing that I've had this conversation around, even like with my own kids and just other people in general, is addiction.
Mhm.
And how it's crazy. It seems crazy, right? If we really break it down, there is kind of a logic to it. But on the surface, it seems crazy that sometimes when someone grows up in a home with addiction, they also become an addict. Or the completely opposite end don't want it anywhere near them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like you swear off this thing or you completely latch onto it. It is such a crazy seeming,
Yeah.
you
It's
know.
really visceral, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
it's these reactions. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
I have on both sides of my family, so both sides of my parents' family, there's alcoholism and addiction. And I've noticed, I've witnessed someone grow up in a home without addiction and kind of marry into it and then kind of conform to it. And I've noticed a sibling of that person who also didn't grow up in a home with addiction, completely different lifestyle,
yeah.
very sober living, completely different ways of doing a lot of things to avoid
Yeah.
growing up addiction. And,
Yeah.
I've witnessed the, just in other instances where it's like, well, this person did grow up in the home of addiction, and then they also married into addiction and, just kind of engulfed in this addiction. And it's, I don't want to say it's sad, but it can be intense, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, addiction, but addiction and religion are kind of, and same with religion. Someone
Yeah.
can be in a very religious household and either not be
Yeah.
or be, but I
Yeah.
think addiction and religion are kind of like the biggest ones
Yeah. Yeah.
that I've witnessed,
Definitely.
you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can see, yeah, definitely. You can see it come out in different aspects too, like certain belief systems people are really uh, very strong in certain things and like, oh no, I'm not going to bend on that. But
Yeah,
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 and other things they're like, oh yeah, I'm open to have a conversation on it. But yeah, it's really interesting when you start pulling apart all these things that actually probably didn't come from you in the first place. And yeah,
yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I talk in a couple of my books. I talk about generational trauma, and it's such a sometimes we don't even realize that this is an unhealthy habit or addiction until we're third generations in,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
takes this kind of awareness or we obtain this education in something, and now we understand, and we're like, oh, okay, so this fourth generation, I want to work harder to not take this on to them as well.
yeah.
But it's oh man, psychology is so interesting.
It is, isn't it? I love how the mind works. Yeah. And the
Yeah,
subconscious as well. Like it's just a whole, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
A whole ocean of possibilities. Yeah.
uh, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the four pillars of needs.
So the four pillars is the first component of the proactive needs and boundaries method, which is a method I came up with. Well, look, I only named it probably last year, but it's been around for probably 5 or 6 years. And I thought I probably have to put a name on this if I'm going to go out and talk about it to people. So that's
Right.
what I came up with. But it basically started, and the push was last year too, because I kept seeing, I don't do a lot of social media, as you can see by my accounts when people look at them. But what I kept seeing was all this, I'm going to call it toxic boundary culture because that's how I saw it. And it was this culture where we were using boundaries to push people away as a form of avoidance, basically. We were saying cut people off, ghost them, block them, you know, yeah, you don't put up with that stuff. And we
Yeah.
just took out the whole thing about having a conversation with someone. But even before that, we stopped to ask, what is it that that boundary is protecting? So that
Mm,
boundary became a wall rather than a signal to tell us that we have an unmet need that's not being addressed.
yeah.
And I started to go back and I started to see through all my working life, and I thought, hang on, because this is kind of, I'm a bit of a nerd unofficially, and I research things in the background. My friends laugh at me. They go, oh, you're such a nerd sometimes, but I do this. But I basically had been studying this pattern of the point of failure versus the point of engagement. So, because this is where I used to get pulled in that project rescue space, and I would
Right.
find in that place that, when I was getting pulled in, that was never usually the point of where that project was failing. It was always happening earlier on in the piece.
Right.
And the same in the trauma context as well, right? In those situations where we get called in as a therapist as well is never where the problem starts from.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so it's this pattern of reacting rather than being proactive. And when I started to look at that, I was like, okay, so if we're starting to teach people about boundaries, we look at things from a boundary perspective. And the boundary is basically the sign to tell us that our need isn't being met. Where do we go back? And so I went back to the basis of what's the need, right? How do
Yeah.
we define that? And when I started talking with a lot of people, I would find that people were very comfortable saying what they don't want
Mm-hmm.
and struggled with what they do want.
Yeah.
And I remember working with a couple, and she was like, I don't want that. I don't want that behavior. And I remember saying to her, okay, what behavior do you want? Tell me what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, I don't know. And I said, well, how is he going to provide that for you if you can't define it? And that's kind of how it all started. So the four pillars of needs is the basis of that. The method actually has three components. So it's the four pillars of needs, the four stages of boundaries, and the three C's of asking. And you can find out all this info on my website. Just I'll give you the links and people can jump on if they're interested.
Yeah.
Um, but the four pillars of needs is where you need to start because you can't really put a wall around, create a boundary
Right.
around something if you don't know what it's protecting.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's teaching people, how do I show up? What's not negotiable? What's important and what, brings joy into my life. And once you can work that out, then you can start working out what your boundaries are around all of those things.
You make a few good points. And one thing that kind of stood out to me, I kind of think of this as like a cavity, right? We have in the very beginning, it's like, oh, I got a little discomfort in my mouth. I don't really
Yeah.
like this, but it's just bothering me for a second. I'll, Orajel or whatever, and I move on. And then
Yeah.
later on, the cavity starts getting deeper. And now I've got this pain won't go away and all these issues. And now I go and I have to get the cavity filled or a root canal or whatever the case may be. And the the body signaled us when we had that little bit of discomfort,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of like, I mean, relationships are like this,
Yeah.
whether it's parental relationships, romantic, sexual, part,
Mhm.
partnerships in business or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
relationships are very much like this. You feel a little twinge of pain first, but we just kind of let it fester sometimes until now we're on the brink
Yeah.
of divorce. Now I want to quit my job, whatever the case may be. And
Yeah.
it's if we, I know, I want to say I think, but I'm pretty confident that I know in relationships, it's one thing that you pointed out. I don't know what I need. I just know what I don't want. I
Yes.
want you
Yeah.
to stop doing this. I want you to stop
Yeah.
saying this. I want this to stop. I don't like this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then, well, what would you like instead? Oh, well, just not that,
Yeah. That's
you know?
right.
So
Yeah.
it's like,
It is. It's like walking in. I used to say it's like walking into a shoe shop and saying to the sales assistant, I don't want blue boots.
yeah,
I just don't want blue boots. And they go, okay, cool. So, and they're thinking, because they have their own assumptions and expectations. So they're thinking, okay, so they must want boots. They just don't want blue ones. Oh, so I'll show you these boots. What do you reckon about that? No, I don't like those. I don't like the heel on that. Oh,
yeah,
okay, so maybe it's not boots. So we go down this rabbit hole of trying to meet someone else's need that
yeah,
we think what they need
yes,
when we don't have a clue of actually what they do need.
yeah,
I get this a lot from women as well, and they go, I just want my partner to communicate with me. And it's like,
hmm
okay, what does that look like for you?
right, right,
Because that's different for everybody. If you
very much,
say, what's communication look like for you? It's going to be different to your partner. It's going to be different to the woman sitting next to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've been married before by my current, and I mean, planning to be fine on marriage, but because I said current marriage one time around my husband, and he was like, "What do you mean current?" Like, and I was like, "Which is not my first one, is what I'm saying."
Yeah, that's it.
My second and final marriage.
Yeah.
In this marriage, I did even go into it with this expectation of, okay, well, I know what I don't like, what I don't want to carry from my previous marriage, right? And I know things I like and things I don't like. And my husband and we're pretty different. He's
Yeah.
big on like words of affirmation, and I'm kind of like, if I never heard I love you again, it wouldn't bother me because I know because the things that you do,
Yeah.
and he's like, well, I see the things you do, but I also like, I need to hear it. And,
Yeah.
had we not had that conversation, I wouldn't have known. I would have just assumed that he liked the same things I like, which we did with each other for a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we were like, okay, well, we had a period in the beginning where we were fighting. And part of that was just there was a lot of adjustments. I went from being a single mom with 5 kids, and he went from being a single person with 0 kids and
Gotcha.
having to
Yeah.
take care of his mom. And we combined all that with no real like conversational plan, hey, this is how
Yeah.
I like things done and blah blah blah. We were just like, hey, we want to be together, we're gonna all move together. So it was like
Yeah.
kind of a shit show in the beginning because there
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
like preparation and conversation. And so there was a point where it was like, well, I know what I like, I guess you like that too. Because quite frankly, you can date somebody for a while and
Yeah.
think that right?
Yeah.
But then you move in and you're cohabitating together, and it's a whole new situation. And so things that just seeing them here and there,
Yeah.
worked they might not be comfortable in a shared space.
Yeah.
So, whether it be romantic relationships, sexual, or or other types of relationships, it's really important to communicate in preparation of,
Yeah.
lifestyle changes. But I don't think most of us do that unless we have someone who tells us, hey, you should, like I've had that
Yeah.
conversation with my daughter, with my son, my older
Mm.
kids that might cohabitate sooner
Yeah.
to be like, hey, nobody told me that,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
That's
like,
right.
we don't
Yeah.
know these things. We don't think about doing these things really until someone points it out to us. And at that
Yeah.
point, they've probably had the experience of not doing it first.
100%, because we're not taught any of this stuff. And I think And I think one of the key things too that I found across years of looking at this is that, well, there's three things. One, you can't communicate it if you don't know what it looks like.
Yes. Yeah.
And on two concepts with that, what it looks like when it's met and what it looks like when it's not met. And that's where the needs and the boundaries come into that before you actually even have that conversation about what it is. And I
Yeah.
think the other thing too is we grow up with this expectation that a person, one person will meet all our needs, and that's not realistic.
Very much so.
It's
Very
not
much so.
realistic.
Yeah.
And I think we have to take that responsibility back on ourselves to say we are
Yeah.
responsible for our own needs.
That's a really good
And
point.
yeah, we have to take that responsibility, but also we have to have the conversation with someone to ask them if it's something they can provide for us
Mm.
and not just assume that they will.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a really good point. Because when it goes into romantic sexual relationships, you know what makes you feel good about that person.
Yeah.
And so, that's what you're attracted to as far as being in that sort of whatever the relationship dynamic might be. This person makes me feel good in this way. Everything else will be okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And like I had a conversation recently with someone and she was saying that she's been dating this guy for 6 weeks and la la la. And I said, so have you had the deal breakers conversation? So for me, the deal breakers is you have this straight away. Like, and you
Yeah.
don't have to, it doesn't have to be rude. It can be polite, kind, compassionate, but you sit there and say, look, these are my 5 or 6 or however many non-negotiables. I'm not
Hmm.
going to start a relationship. I'm going to walk away from it if these things happen. What are
Yeah.
yours? Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what are yours? And she said, no, I haven't. And I said, well, why have you gone 6 weeks without having that conversation? Because if you get to a point where I've seen it, 10 years down the track and someone goes, but I always wanted to have kids and I never wanted to have kids. And now they're at this place where they can't stay together anymore because
Yes.
they're deal breakers.
Right.
So yeah, it would be very proactive to have that
Yes.
conversation up front. But that's another thing we're not taught because we're naturally taught to be reactive in, how we're brought up in society. It's react, react, react.
Yes. Yes. Very much so. Mhm. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about or
Probably just to let people know that they don't have to go through this self-discovery thing by themselves. So, it is hard when you start pulling things apart and the emotions come up and you understand, you start to question, why have I done this? And why am I, why am I in this situation? And why do I keep looping in these same patterns? So, if you are going through stuff like that, reach out, have a chat with me. I do have a lot of free resources on my website that people can download. I have some premium tools. I have the 4 Pillars course. That's amazing if you want to start that process of working out what your needs are so you can start to show up authentically in that space. So yeah, come and have a chat with me and let's see how we can help each other.
beautiful? And I noticed that you work with not only individuals, but you do work with couples as well.
I
And
do,
I
yeah.
think I really think that's a good thing to point out. Most courses are generally geared toward the individual, right? And so I don't think there's a lot of,
Yeah.
when it comes to courses, I don't think there's a lot of those out there that are available for couples. So that's really cool to see
Yeah.
that piece available as well.
Yeah, so what I do with the couple situation is I like them to go and work on their needs individually so they're not influenced by the person in front of them because
Yeah,
yeah, in relationships as well, you can go, oh, it's all about my partner, it's all about my kids, it's all about everybody else except me.
right.
And I think when you have to be honest with yourself and go, okay, what do I actually need? That's where it becomes a little bit more hard, a bit harder, a bit trickier. So
Yeah.
I like them to go away and do that separately And then what we do is we come back in a session and we start asking, talking about and asking for what they need to each other and learn how to have that conversation in a way that facilitates connection rather than puts the other one, on the back foot. So it's
Right.
really kind and authentic, but there's a few tips and tools and techniques that I can teach people just to be able to say, okay, this is how we start to have that conversation and get our needs met. And sometimes it's not about getting them met with the partner. Sometimes, as I said, we're responsible for our own needs. We need to go and find something else that meets that need. But at least the expectation is clear when we have that conversation up front. There's
Right.
a big gap, right? In some of a lot
Yeah.
of the stuff that we're taught. It's just like, yeah, the
Yeah.
partner should do this for you. The partner should know. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I've learned in really all relationships, all as a parent, as a wife, people don't know what we want if we don't tell them. And
Yeah.
we have this misconception of, well, you should know. And maybe it's because I've said something before, or this scenario happened before and I liked it or I didn't, right? But I think a lot of times, and this is something I've had to discover as, like I said, as a parent, as a wife. It started as a parent, having
Mm.
teenagers, teenage dudes and all this. And sometimes I got to remember I'm not the only person in their day. And while I
Yeah.
feel like they're taking things out on me, like I'm their comfort space, reminding them, hey, maybe don't talk to me like that. Let's have a
Yeah.
conversation, but
Yeah.
not like, why are you,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not the only person in their day, and I'm not the only
Yeah.
person in my husband's day, and I'm not the only thing in their life. And
Yeah.
I think often we forget that. And so
Yeah.
we think that everything is directed toward us that comes at us, or we expect our partner or child or whoever to just know what we
Yeah.
want right then and there.
Yeah.
And that's not always fair because,
Mm.
things change. Sometimes we let certain things, I don't need in marriages, but particularly like with children, sometimes we let things slide, and other
Yeah.
times it gets on us because we're already agitated. So, and even with our partners, sometimes it's like, okay, maybe I shouldn't. Like, we got to have a conversation because I'm thinking right now that you should be doing or saying blah 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 because that's what I
Yeah.
want because
Yeah.
that's what I wanted before, but we're not the only thing on their mind. So
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe having that conversation, letting them know, like, hey, can you do this for me? Or this is what I like, this is what I don't, and so on and so forth. It really does kind of reground that relationship because
Yeah.
the longer you go without effective communication, the farther apart you are. And it gets to a point where, like, I don't even like this person anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And a
And exactly like
conversation
you,
would have, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And exactly like you said too, expecting them to know what you want in that moment. And like most of the time, I would say the people that I speak with don't actually know what they need in that moment because they're at that hard boundary stage where, their nervous system is reacting and they're like stressed. There's all this tension. They're like, oh, I'm ready to react here. Why aren't you
Right.
giving me what I need? But I
Yeah.
don't know what I need. It's like that, the argument about putting out the garbage, the
Yeah.
trash, US trash, Aussie garbage, but just translating. But that argument, it's not really about taking out the garbage at all. It's about feeling supported in doing the household chores,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
you know?
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, there's these expectations. I have certain expectations with my kids and certain expectations with my husband. I think when it comes to like your spouse or your partner,
Mm.
things like the trash for us, it's like, okay, well, I always want you to take out the trash. You should just know if the trash is full. You know, where
Yeah.
here we're more like, okay, if you see it full, just take it out. Like then it's your responsibility, no matter who you are. Like in a perfect world, that's what we want everybody to do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so it kind of like but maybe they don't realize the garbage is full. Maybe they're in a hurry. And because I've had certain conversations with my husband about, oh well, so and so should have just done so and so. And I'm like, well, think about it this way. Maybe they didn't realize. They could have turned around and
Mm.
something fell and they were focused. They didn't hear it or just shove something in there and not, but
Yeah.
then we had the conversation of paying attention. Just, but it's
Yeah.
like we don't always see the same things. So
100%.
if
Yeah.
I'm not paying, if I'm so focused on cooking dinner, I might not notice that this is needs to be done, or,
Yeah.
with I'm focused on work, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's just maybe just give each other a little grace that, just because we felt or responded or acted this way one day about something doesn't
Yeah.
mean that the partner should be kind of forced for that to be the expectation. Unless you've
Yeah.
had a conversation where it's like you only always take the garbage out, okay, then that's
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
that's a
And,
spoken expectation. But
yeah, exactly, exactly. And the thing is too is don't be afraid to ask. If you don't know, don't assume, just ask.
yeah, yeah,
Just ask. Yeah. Yeah, because
yeah,
we can go in that down our ants automatic negative thoughts where we go to that space of, oh, they
yeah,
mustn't love me anymore. They're doing this because they don't respect me, or that, all these different things. And it's
yeah.
usually not the case. So ask. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Mm.
that's easy to do with both partners and kids.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, they're doing this because they don't respect me. And when in reality, sometimes it's like they aren't even thinking about me
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
just not respect me. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many other things going on,
Yeah.
and spouses too. I think spouses are a little bit different because
Mm.
in our relationship, it's the two of us. Whereas, like,
Yeah.
okay, I have 5 kids, so it's like there's the five of
So,
you.
yeah.
But in a monogamous relationship anyway, in a
Yeah.
in a monogamous relationship, there is just the two of you. And even if the day
Yeah.
is chaotic, the end of the night can be your come together place for just the
Yeah.
two of you, or making that intentional space for just the relationship, which sometimes it can be difficult, but
Yeah.
it is another kind of necessary component of your communication.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Well, yeah. Can you please let everyone know where they can find you, whether it be your website or social media, whatever your preference is?
Yeah, so you'll see that my social media is pretty sad. So contact me on my website, steppingintome.com, and also steppingintome.com.au. You can use either one, they all point to the same place. As I said, there's plenty of free resources and tools, premium tools that you can find in that space. If you're not sure where to start, there's a where to start page, and it goes through all different resources based on the problem that you're going through. I also have just started a YouTube channel. It's baby new. So jump on and support me. And I do videos on all different types of things on self-discovery. And I've just started doing some conversations with people. So you come and join me on mine too, Rhea, if you want.
Okay. I will I will do that right now, actually.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
good. Yeah, yeah.
And kudos to, incorporating YouTube too, because that can be kind of a job in itself.
Yeah, yeah. So I've kind of gone off. Look, my intuition tells me that social media is not going to be around for too much longer anyway, and
Mm,
I don't want to invest in something that I don't own anyway.
that's
So
a good point. That's a good
yeah,
point. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm kind of putting it into my website and on YouTube. At least I've got my own videos that I can take off and put. They're all on my website anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I've been more consistent with social media. I wish that I didn't have to do anything with it, honestly. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't
Same.
care, but like, I need to promote things. So I don't know, like if I never
Yeah,
had to post on social media, like sometimes it's fun. I like planning
yeah,
things out, creating things, but like if I never had to make sure that I consistently post things places, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, yeah, same, same. Yeah, I could go without it easily enough.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I am
Yeah.
trying.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being here. And I really appreciate
Thank
this
you.
time that you spent with me and that, we were able to finally get together and have this conversation. And I would love to have you back to kind of get to know you a little more personally as well, if you're up to
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you. And yeah, come and join me on my baby channel and all self-discovery convos. So yeah, I'm open to talking about whatever,
Okay.
anything that can help people. Yeah,
Right. And
yeah.
what is your YouTube handle? Is it just your
Stepping into me. Yeah,
Okay,
at
perfect.
stepping into me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. All
Sounds
right.
good.
Thank you, my
Thank
dear.
you.
Okay.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for spending this time with us on Just the Who of Us. We hope today's conversation offered reflection, comfort, or a moment of clarity. If this episode resonated with you, feel free to share it with someone who may need it. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember, you're not alone in the journey.